The end of Perek Chof Test, after end of chapter 29, last paragraph, where Moshe is engaged with a dialogue for a week at the burning bush with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he should be the Redeemer, and he asked all kinds of questions, and Hashem responds to every one of the questions. But the underlying basis for the questions was that he felt that he would be offending his older brother, that if he's chosen to be the Redeemer and Aaron is not, he may be offending him. So as a result of his humility, he was trying to give many reasons why he should not be the one. But Hashem responded to every question and why he should be the one. So finally he says to Hashem, why don't you choose the one who normally is your spokesman? I mean Aaron, because until Moshe returned, he's returning, he's 80 years old. Aaron, being a prophet, was God's spokesman. So he says, why don't you choose your regular spokesman? So the Torah says, Vayigash Hashem b'Moshe. God became angry with Moshe. That's what the Torah says. Omer B'Shu ben Korcho. So Rashi in Chumash, in his commentary, cites these two opinions. Whenever we find Charonaf, the rage of God, there's always a consequence of anger, of wrath. The question is, what was the consequence to Moshe? Was there a consequence? Was there not a consequence? Omer B'Shu ben Korcho. Charonaf shebimikra osa roshem. Rabbi Shimon Korcha says, whenever you find the term, the rage of God, there is always a consequence. So the question is, what is the consequence here? Rav Shimi Yechoy Omar, Abzeh Nema Boroshem. He says, although normally there is a consequence and there is an effect, here we find there's no effect, no negative effect. No, this is not the exception. You find that there's a very serious consequence because Moshe asked an inappropriate question. What is the consequence? Shenemar halo Aaron ochicha Levi. Hashem says to Moshe, Aaron, your brother the Levi, will be your spokesman. What's the point of pointing out exactly his pedigree? We know Aaron is his brother. So if Moshe is a Levi, Aaron's a Levi. So what's the point of identifying him as the Levi? Halo Koinu. Is he a Kohen? He's not a Kohen. So why is he referred to as the Levi? Elamarti. Initially, what did I say? Shatoti a Kohen. You were meant initially to be the Kohen. Moshe was meant to be the Kohen. I mean, who is the most what's a Kohen? A Kohen is the officiant of God. Who's more qualified than Moshe Rabbeinu? If Moshe Rabbeinu was qualified to be the Makabel Torah, the one to receive the Torah, he shouldn't be qualified to what? And to spend 40 days and 40 nights in heaven, he shouldn't be the one to be qualified to be the Kohen. But Hashem says no. Initially you were qualified to be the Kohen, but because you asked this inappropriate question, Vu Levi, until now you were meant to be the Kohen and your brother Aaron was meant to be the Levi. However now, V'achshov, but now because you asked this question, which evoked the rage of God, Ato Levi Hu Kohen. We're going to reverse the roles. You're going to be the Levi and he will be the Kohen. Pirish. Ein kan enos aroshim. Rabbi Shua ben Korcha says no. Although normally whenever we find the rage of God, there's always a negative consequence. This is the exception. But it says God became angry. Why shouldn't it be? So Rabbi Shua ben Shalohi, Moshe mechavin lechet el osa b'shvil hanova. This is hanova. This is due to his humility. Let's make a differentiation. Hashem comes to Avram Avinu and says, the land is meant to be yours and your progeny. Forever. The land of Canaan. Avram asks a question. But how do we know we're going to inherit? Maybe we're not going to be worthy. When God initially said it's going to be yours, did he say it's preconditional? It's no condition. So what are you asking the question? So it's an inappropriate question. It's not rooted in Avram's humility. It's not rooted in humility. So it's almost like asking a question which without really thinking about the inappropriateness of the question. It's at a very subtle level. He meant, what about if we sin? Are we going to be worthy, or are we going to retain it? That was the, but still, God said it's unconditional. So why are you asking the question? I'll give you an example. I say, I'm going to give you a gift. And we have a long-standing relationship. I say, do you really mean it? It's insulting. What do you mean, do I really mean it? If I said I'm going to give it, of course I'm going to give it. There's no basis for the question. Over here, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he said, he asked the question, when he made the remark, let Aaron be your agent, not me. Why did he say that? That was due to his humility. So because it emanated from a pure, what was the inappropriateness? And this we learned, the Gemara tells us that if a person asks you to do something, initially you should try to not to assume, and it was speaking about something of honor, an honorable request, that you're going to be honored. You should try to shy away. That's a demonstration of humility. What about he asks you a second time? Then, again, you shy away to a lesser degree. A third time, if the person is, it's a disrespect. That's being obstinate. But what about a person of a special status asks you to do something? Immediately you have to accept it. You don't display humility because it's an insult. It's a disrespect to the person of greatest stature who makes the request. And this is expressed in the Misarvin Logodo. You're not permitted to be Misariv, to be obstinate to a great person, to a person of status. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu. And especially here, he responded continuously to all his questions. But it is the ultimate honor to be the Goel, to be the Redeemer. Let Aaron do it. It's inappropriate. So even though it's emanating from humility, from Anova, it's still inappropriate. And that's what Rav Shimon Yochai says. It's irrelevant. Nevertheless, there is, since there's rage, there's a consequence for this. Shel rotz lito gedula al ochiv. This is Rav Shimon Korcha. The reason why there was no consequence, he didn't want to take a status, a position of status which is greater than his brother. Shimon Yochai sover sh'af kan osa roshem. But he says something interesting. He says, but he puts it in a different vein. It made a roshem, but it emanates from humility. A roshem show you Moshe, Levi, Varon, Kohen. What is it? They're reversing their roles. Moshe was meant to be the Kohen. Aaron was meant to be the Levi. Now, Moshe will be the Levi. Aaron will be the Kohen. Pirush Asher Nosa Moshe Leilokim. Tichsiv. What did Hashem say? Hu yeh l'chol leper. He will be your spokesman. Va'atotia leilokim. Leilohim. You'll be the equivalent of the master, of God. What's Elokim? Elokim midas adin. Elokim is the attribute of justice. He will be your spokesman, but where is it going to be dictated from? It's going to emanate from you. You're going to communicate it through him. Lekach atotia Levi. Because you're Elokim, and he will be a spokesman. What did Hashem say to Moshe? But I have a speech impediment. So what does Hashem say to Moshe? Yisam pelo odom. Who gives anybody the ability to speak? Meaning you will not be affected. It will not in any way interfere with your expression, your verbal expression. Who gives anybody the ability to speak? Okay? That also has to be explained. But now that after everything's said and done, he says, Aaron will be your spokesman. Hu atoti Elohim. Elohim is midas adin. Lekach atoti Levi. Why? Shemidoso midas hadin. The attribute of Levi is din. That is the attribute of Levi. There's a Ravina Bach who speaks about this. That Levi is midas adin. V'im lo asiso kach elo lachta b'shlichus. But if you would have been my agent, so who would have you represented? That means you would have been removed from Elohim. You're one step removed from Elohim. You're only the spokesman. You are not the source. You wouldn't represent midas adin. Vayisa kohen shemidoso midas Elohim. Shu midas adin. Now let's understand. Why can't the kohen be midas adin? He's going to explain. What does the kohen bring about? Through his action, he facilitates kapara, atonement. What is tshuva? What is tshuva rooted in? Chesed. It's chesed. It's the expression of God's chesed. And to be fully reinstated is the ultimate. But if you represent din, how could you be in that position to bring that about? So the Kohen, his characteristic, his attribute cannot be din. His attribute has to be chesed or rachmim. What is the Kohen? What exactly is his function? He's an agent. He's an agent. He's representing Klal Yisrael. Whenever there's any issue between them and God, they represent the Jewish people. There's a royalist Kohen, ki ha-Kohen hu shliach Yisrael. Lahakriv korbaneseim, to sacrifice their sacrifices. Umeshamish lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to officiate before God on whose behalf? The Kohen's not officiating on his own behalf, only as a representative. I mean, we find initially all the Bechorim, the firstborn, were meant to be the Kohanim. But because we were involved in the Chet Egel, they became tainted. The only tribe that was involved in idolatry was Shevet Levi. Who is the elite of Levi? The Kohen. But what are the Kohanim? They are the agents. So the Bechor should have been the agent, but he's not qualified any longer. He was disqualified. But now, for whatever reason, you don't want to be the agent. It may emanate from humility. If you're not willing to be God's agent, he says, but the first is the primary reason. Because Hashem said to Moshe, you are Elokim, and Levi, and that means that's Midas Adin. The Kohen is Midas Arachmim, or the attribute of Chesed. Now the question is why. It's based on the Kabbalistic reason why Levi is Din. You could say maybe. It said, Mila Shamei like. Right? After the Chet Egel, God says, Moshe announced, whoever's for God, be with me. And it says they killed even their own brothers. Meaning if they were related through a mother, because they couldn't be related paternally, because they're Leviim. Leviim were not involved in idolatry. I mean, whoever heard to kill idolaters with a sword, and to kill even your own brother if he was an idolater? What is that? Is that Midas HaRachman? Is that Midas Adin? That's the attribute of justice. So the Levi, the expression of Levi is Midas Adin, right? Shimon v'Levi Achim. What did Levi do in Shechem? Zealotry, even though we find something interesting. Initially, Pinchas was a Levi. But through his act of zealotry, he became what? He became a Kohen. Right? By killing Zimri, because there was something going on, but over there it's different. There was, even though the act itself was an act of din, because of Chil Hashem, but what happened? What did Hashem say? If not for Pinchas' act of zealotry, for Chilis Bnei Yisrael, I would have destroyed the Jewish people. Because how do you stand by and allow such a Chil Hashem, such a desecration of my name to take place, and remain silent? Therefore, he expressed my wrath. And what was the consequence of that expression of wrath? It was a kapara for Klal Yisrael. So what did he bring about? His act of zealotry was the ultimate act of chesed. It's like a person needs an operation, and you actually excise the tumor that he definitely will die unless you excise it. If he wouldn't have killed Zimri, there'd be no Jewish people. So the killing of Zimri is excising the cancerous tumor that there should be an eternal people. Otherwise, there's no Klal Yisrael. Therefore, the consequence of Zak was to put you in a position of chesed, to facilitate kapora, because what he did was kapora. Next parak. Kol Hashem b'ni b'chori Yisrael. He says to Moshe, I want you to go to tell Paro, this is what God said. Ko b'ni b'chori Yisrael. The Jewish people are equivalent of my firstborn. So Rashi over here says something interesting. We find that Yaakov purchased the birthright from Esav. The angel, after he had battled with the angel who, according to the Midrash, was the archangel of Esav, he would not release him until he openly admitted that the birthright comes to Yaakov rightfully. And this is what he said, and that's when he had the name change. Your name will no longer be Yaakov, Yisrael Yeshmecha. Your name is Yisrael. Because you lorded over Elokim, V'odam V'tucho, over man and God, and you were victorious. Okay? Then later it says Hashem also confirmed it that he's Yisrael. But when Moshe is going to Paro, we're no longer a person, we're no longer a family. Today, where are we? We're in the 210th year of the bondage. Now we're a people. Now we talk about confirming that B'ni B'chori Yisrael. It's confirmation on Klal Yisrael. Who are we? We are the ones who carry the birthright. It's no longer the person. It's no longer the family. Now it's a nation. So Rashi says when Hashem sent Moshe to say, Kol Hashem B'ni B'chori Yisrael, this was a confirmation on the birthright that Yaakov had taken, had purchased from Esav, legally. Kol Yisrael B'no B'choro. Hashem calls the Klal Yisrael his firstborn. Ratzaloma K'mosha B'chor Nikra Reishis. What is the B'chor? B'chor is the first. Is the first seed, issue of the father. Kureishis Ono, he's the first of his strength. Shuascholos Haros Kocho Shalodom. Sheniglo Bo Kocho. Ke'aben Hu Koach Shalav. We speak about potential. Right? It's actualizing potential. Who is a child? It's the actualization of the potential of the father. Takes something which is potential and brings it into reality. There's a son. That is an expression of the koach of the father. Of the this is the first expression of God's presence and existence. As I said before, it was Yaakov. B'shivim nefesh yardu b'nei Yisrael mitzrayim. With 70 individuals went to Egypt. We were individuals. Shivim nefesh. We're no longer shivim nefesh. Discussed this. The Maral discussed it. Rabbeinu Bachya discusses it. There was a critical mass that was needed before we should redeem 600,000 males above the age of 20. So Maral explains, because that's considered the totality of everything. 6 is every direction, all directions and up and down. 1,000th is the largest number, and it's 600,000. That's totality. This totality represents who? B'nai B'chori Yisrael. This is the first of, this is Rashis. This is God's presence in existence. We represent God's presence. Ki olu moreh alo olu. Yisborach alulam brishona. Who's the cause? Hashem's the cause. We're the effect. We're affected by. He affects us to be. So what is Hashem? Hashem is Rashis. Hashem is the beginning. Ani Rishon v'ani Achron. God is the first. He's beginning and the end. Kamo sha'Rashis muvdal midover shu Rashis lo. Shuri mashu Rashis hu inyan sheinu nimtza ba'acher. This is Rabbeinu Bachya says. What is the Rashis? As I said, the first, the one who opens the womb of its mother, the kosher species, domesticated species is what? Doesn't have to be consecrated. It's naturally consecrated. The animal that opens the womb of his mother is Kodush. A child, the firstborn male, is Kodush. Has to be Pidyon Aben. Has to be redeemed. Right? Why? Because it's the Rashis. Rashis is the characteristic of God. God is Rashis. Anything which reflects God's profile, which is Rashis, has Kedusha. Okay? Mashu Rashis hu inyan sheinu nimtzabachet. This is unique. No one else. It's the beginning. Neize abachor kodesh ki hu nivdal min hashar b'mashu Rashis. Shul nivzeh b'shar. If you're first, so anything that follows is second, third. It begins. God is the beginning. The Bechor is the beginning. Kach Yisrael sheim Rashis nivdolim mikol umos. They are the first nation to be at that level representing spirituality. There's no other nation represents spirituality. As we always say, the Maral says, with a tzura nevdelis. Our essence is spiritual, our circumstance is physical. Right? That's why the Jew is eternal. V'heim gamki kedoshim tzam shem reishis. So why is the kedusha? Because we have the first. Im taskel b'inyan mechiras Esav ha'bechora liYaakov. He says if you reflect and you delve into understanding the transfer of the birthright from Esav to Yaakov, al tomasher dover cotton. Say it was a transaction. You know, a pot of lentil soup and a few loaves of bread. It's not a dover cotton. He's a remez al ikar inyan Yaakov. Because there's a question. Factually, Yaakov wasn't the firstborn. So if birthright is determined by who you are in your essence, factually, Esav was the firstborn. He opened the womb of his mother. Yaakov came out second. He came out holding on to the heel of Esav. So it's not a simple matter. So what does it mean he purchased it? He transferred. How do you transfer something? To somebody. You know, a person has a certain dimension of intelligence. And he takes a person, he says, I endow you with unlimited intelligence. That's something God could do. One person can't transfer it to another. So, I mean, if reality, the only way you could be endowed with that special classification, if you're the first, because you reflect God's being the beginning of all, but you're not the beginning. You're second. You don't have that characteristic. So he says, it's not a small matter, simple matter. How did he transfer it? He says, remez al ikar inyan Yaakov. That this transfer could take place, this was an indication of the essence of who Yaakov was. Kashet tovin v'teida ki bemes Yaakov hu ha'bechor. In essence, Yaakov was the Bechor. U'olu b'rishon. Says something phenomenal. Rak l'in his galus ba'olam hativi lotzis l'pol Esav Yosef Rishon. Now, of the two, Yaakov, Esav, who was the more physical? Esav, okay? Coming into existence, you're coming into a physical existence. Who had greater relevance to physicality? Yaakov, Esav. That's where he came out first. In terms of what is truly the Bechor, in his essence, the Bechor itself, in terms of Yaakov versus Esav. Yaakov, his essence was holy, was spiritual. So, if I'm dealing with a firstborn and a first child and a second child, after the first child is the Bechor. Second child is not the Bechor, it doesn't have Kedusha. First one has Kedusha. Okay? Even though it's the first child to have relevance to this existence, which is material. But the second one is no different than the first. Factually, the second one also is coming onto this existence. So they're both connected to physical existence. So what is the first one have over the second one? Rishon. So therefore that's Kedusha. Yaakov in his essence had no relevance to the physical world. His essence was spiritual. So if we have somebody whose essence is spiritual, somebody's essence is physical, who should come out first? The one who has greater relevance to the physical existence. So that's what he says. Regarding the Olam HaTivi, regarding the material, the natural world, who has greater relevance to that? That's Esav. He came out first. So Yaakov, although he came out second, but in the essence of what a Bechor represents, Yaakov is the Bechor, not Esav. Therefore, that's why the transfer could take place. So what he was transferring was only to confirm the essence of what Yaakov really was. Right? They fought. Who should come out first? Because there's a little bit of a misconception. There's a misconception here. Because in the essence, Yaakov really represents who the Bechor is. Esav, being more physical, he came out first. But in his essence, he's not. What's the proof? The proof is what happened initially. When she was agitating, she felt rumbling in her womb. What was it all about? Where was Esav going? Where was Yaakov going? Either it's as one interpretation of Chazal, they were battling over both worlds, the physical and the spiritual world. Or when she would walk by a temple of idolatry, who would bolt to go out? That was Esav. Once you would pass by the Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever, which is Torah, Yaakov would both go out. So who was drawn to what? Esav was drawn to evil, and Yaakov was drawn to what? To Kedusha, to spirituality. Rakli his inyan is galus ba'olam hativi lotzeis lepo el Esav Yosef Rishon ki adobar shu korov elo ole harishon hu rochuk min his galus ba'olam hativi. What's closest to the cause? Yaakov being spiritual, he's a representative of God. So that means you're further from the material. Yaakov being closer to God is further from the material. Esav being further from God, he's closer to the material. So who goes first? But the one who's further from the cause, which is God, therefore Esav was the first one to be revealed in the physical world. Of course, he's the first consequence. He's closest to the cause. God is the cause, and the effect is Yaakov. Ki Yaakov ureish zabrio, mitzachu olo risho, kashe godlo vos kibel Yaakov maloso. So when he was born, it was really had no relevance. But as they grew into adulthood, when they were 15 years old, they were twins. Where was Esav coming from? And what was Yaakov doing? He was cooking a pot of lentil soup because Avraham Avinu passed away. And where is he coming from?